30 seconds.
Sure.
Oh.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. I got a streaming.
No,
link.
it's just us. It's just the three of us. Nobody else is in here.
Yeah, I got a streaming link. Okay.
Okay. Okay, I'm letting everybody in. Okay, Yeshadhanwar Prabhu, would you like to say hello?
Hare Krishna, welcome to the Bhakti Center's daily Bhagavatam class, which these days is a mix of from the temple room and like today, online virtually. So it's my honor and pleasure to invite Madan Gopal Prabhu from ISKCON of New Jersey, currently the Tawako temple, but soon to be the Parsippany temple, the one that you see behind Madan Gopal Prabhu's back. Madan Gopal Prabhu is a vice president there, and he's helping them build that fabulous new temple, which every time I speak with him, it seems like new things have come up there, walls and roofs and things like that. And it's rapidly coming along for an opening sometime in 2022. And he also handles ISKCON communications for North America under Anuttama Prabhu and does so many other services. And he's also a very dear personal friend and a wonderful speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Madan Gopal Prabhu, please enlighten us on today's verses.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for your very generous introduction, Yeshadhanwar Prabhu. And I invite all of you devotees to come and stop by Parsippany. It's only 26 miles west of New York City. You can see the progress. It's about 80% done. The structure's all up, and I think it'll be very exciting to see the building. So thank you all for joining this morning as we continue our journey through the beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam. So I will share my screen so everyone can see the verses. Okay, here we go. Is it visible? The share screen? Okay. So we can get started. So today's verse is 9:21:13. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 9:21:13. Kshutre shramo gatra paribhramascha dainyam klama shoka vishada moha sarve nivritta kripanasya jantor jiji vishor jiva jalarpaname. So this is King Rantideva speaking, and he has been fasting from water even, and it was about time for him to break his fast, and of course he had a meal ready to honor, a full plate of prasadam ready to honor, made with ghee, and it's really nutritious, and so perfect for breaking his fast. But then, three different personalities, they showed up one after another, and he gave up his plate, and even now he's giving up his water. He gave up his water also to these different people who showed up, but who were really desperate, and they needed it for them to live. Otherwise, they would have probably died right then. It was really a kind gesture for him. So here in the translation he says, by offering my water to maintain the life of this poor Chandala who is struggling to live, I have been freed from all hunger, thirst, fatigue, trembling of the body, moroseness, distress, lamentation, and illusion. So we'll be covering 3 verses today. Iti prabhashya paniyam mriyamana pipasaya pulkasaya tadadhiro nisarga karuno nripa. Having spoken thus, King Rantidev, although on the verge of death because of thirst, gave his own portion of water to the Chandala without hesitation, for the king was naturally very kind and sober. Tasya tribhuvanadisha phalada phalamichhatam atmanam darshayam chakrur maya vishnu vinirmita. Demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, who can satisfy all materially ambitious men by giving them the rewards they desire, then manifested their own identities before King Rantidev. For it was they who had presented themselves as the Brahmana, Shudra, Chandala, and so on. So now we know, obviously, that these personalities would come begging for the food that Rantidev was about to eat. They revealed themselves that now we are the demigods, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and so on. And then last verse from today. Savai tebhyo namaskritya nisango vigata spriha vasudeve bhagavati bhaktya chakre manaparam. King Rantidev had no ambition to enjoy material benefits from the demigods. He offered them obeisances, but because he was factually attached to Lord Vishnu, Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he fixed his mind at Lord Vishnu's lotus feet. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung, Anya Deva Shraya Nai Tumare Kahino Bhai E Bhakti Parama Karana. If one wants to become a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, one should not hanker to take benedictions from the demigods. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.20, Kamaisteste hridajnana prapadyante anya devata. Those befooled by the illusion of the material energy worship gods other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, although Rantidev was personally able to see Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, he did not hanker to take material benefits from them. Rather, he fixed his mind upon Lord Vasudeva and rendered devotional service unto him. This is the sign of a pure devotee whose heart is not adulterated by material desires. Anya bhilashita shunyam jnana karma dyanavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna, favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Purport ends here. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my obeisances to the lotus feet of my spiritual master, who has opened my darkened eyes and filled my heart with transcendental knowledge. I further offer my obeisances to all of you assembled Vaishnavas and seek your permission and blessings in reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. So we covered, I believe, 4 verses today, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we'll go back to the first one. There's quite a few take-home points that we see in this section. So here Rantidev is saying that he was having this hunger, thirst, fatigue, and trembling of the body, moroseness and distress, lamentation, delusion. He's implying that he had these, especially because he'd been fasting, but now he gave his water to maintain the life of this poor Chandala, and by giving the water, he actually feels relief. So now we know this concept of hangry. You might have heard of this word, hangry. I don't know if it's in the dictionary, but we use it. Maybe in the dictionary. Hangry is like when we get angry because we are hungry, right? We get really upset. We're on the edge. There's trembling of the body. There's hunger, thirst, and fatigue. This is all there. And the moroseness leads us to lash out at people. I'm sure most of us have had this experience when we either fasting or maybe we just missed a meal because we're traveling, or it's just because of circumstances we couldn't eat, and then we get on the edge, we get irritated, we get annoyed, and we can sometimes lash out, and perhaps even like shout at somebody or get really upset. So this happens. It's called a hangry. When you're hungry and you get angry. Now, this concept of hangry is actually one of the ways our conditional existence tortures us. In the 5th canto, it's true. Our conditional nature, our conditional existence, being in the material world, it's pretty serious. And I see Paula Andrea is agreeing that hangry is serious. And in fact, it can be so serious that you may be loving somebody in a loving relationship, but that particular day you're hangry and just things that are so bad that it could harm the relationship. Because when you say harsh things to somebody, and whether you meant it or not, it can really hurt deep. And one can even ruin the relationship with their own family members. What to speak of, non-family members. Family, you're committed to the relationship, you're committed to taking care of your spouse, children, and make sure that, we stay together. But something like this, seemingly insignificant like this, can really ruin it. So here, of course, Rantidev has every reason to be angry. So this, believe it or not, this is actually listed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 5th canto, as one of the ways of our conditional existence. I'll read it here. Kvachitcha dushena kaya bhayantara vahina grihita sara swakutumbaya krudhyati. Krudhyati means angry. Swakutumba, his own family members. How? Let's read the translation. Sometimes, due to bodily hunger and thirst, is hangry. The conditioned soul becomes so disturbed that he loses his patience and becomes angry with his own beloved sons, daughters, and wife. Thus, being unkind to them, he suffers all the more. See? Everything is there in the Bhagavatam. A precise description of what it means to be hangry and what kind of fallout can come from that. And this comes under the section of how our conditional nature tortures us. So Srimad Bhagavatam, it's totally supported by Shastra, completely. And we read it. This 5th canto, we are on the 9th canto right now. It's not like we missed it. But, if you pay attention and try to connect what we're reading to our world and see if we can connect it maybe even some of our modern jargon, then we can remember these more easily. That, Bhagavatam talks about hangry. It's really such an important part of our life. It's not that Bhagavatam misses these points. They're very precisely described. We just have to remember to connect it when we're reading, so that next time we can remember when the situation rises in our life. So it is true. I'll in fact show you some of this section. It's called the material world as a great forest of enjoyment. So we're trying to enjoy, but we suffer. It's the opposite. Sometimes we absorbed in yellow stool known as gold and run after it. It's all these things. We know all these things, right? but they're all covered very nicely in the Bhagavatam. So this hangry, it's pretty serious. But here we find a very interesting angle on it. Usually, if you're hungry, you got to go and eat something quickly right away, or do something to raise your blood sugar so you don't lose your mind. But here, what Rantidev is saying, it's a counterintuitive nature of spiritual reward. He's saying, by offering my water to maintain the life of this poor Chandala who is struggling to live, I have been freed from all hunger, thirst, fatigue, troubling of the body, moroseness, distress, lamentation, and illusion. So there are two ways of looking at this. One is that, hey, if I was here, I would have totally not shared my food at all. Like, you guys can just, wait for some time. I'm first, numero uno. And that's also a valid way of dealing with the situation. But of course, a higher way is to recognize that if I do something of a spiritual, selfless nature, the reward, because it's spiritual, right, it actually resolves the material distress. And so here he's testifying to that effectiveness, that because I gave my water to this Chandala, I'm not thirsty anymore. See? So it is counterintuitive, and that's the way spiritual rewards work. When we share our joy increases. When we share our good fortune increases further. When we give, we receive. And of course, when we share Krishna consciousness, naturally our own enthusiasm for Krishna consciousness increases manyfold. Anybody who has had the experience of sharing Krishna consciousness with anyone else, and then that other person who receives it takes it with great enthusiasm, takes it with great appreciation, and implements it in their life, it's so satisfying to us, and it increases our own enthusiasm tremendously. So, of course, there is the other side to this. Rantidev is a very advanced devotee, and perhaps it may not be recommended for us to do exactly what he did in that situation, depending on our own level of conditioning. For example, we want to share Krishna consciousness, and we want to go out every day, all night, because we know when you give, you receive. But we should be careful on how exactly we go about doing it. We shouldn't do it at the expense of burning ourselves out. Why? Of course, we want to give to others, but Prabhupada always wrote and advised the devotees that make sure you take care of yourself first. Not that, if you're trying to, rescue people who are drowning, at least you should be in a secure position so you don't drown. So he did always recommend, most strongly advise, that you take care of your health first. If you burn out your health, how can you continue saving people? How will you even practice your own Krishna consciousness? So we have to be careful on how we implement it. So even in this particular instance, when we read about Rantidev, who was on the edge of total starvation, and then he gave his prasadam to others, there is always a right way of taking the message and a wrong way of taking the message. If I'm not good at fasting and things like that, but I get super inspired by Rantidev to just fast beyond my capacity, it may end up backfiring. Therefore, we need some guidance from our gurus, our senior devotees who understand our situation better and who can advise us in the practical aspects of it. So what message are we to take from this? That when we give, we receive. Spiritual life works in sometimes counterintuitive ways. When we give up things that we thought were giving us happiness, we actually become happier. We give up overeating, eating more than necessary. We actually become happier. Even physically, we get happier, and spiritually, certainly, it makes our life much more conducive for growth. So in the next verse, we see a glorification of the king. On the verge of death, because of thirst, he gave his own portion of water to the Chandal without hesitation. For the king was Dhira Nisarga Karuna. Dhira means sober. We know this in the verse Bhagavad Gita, Dhiras Tatra Namuhyati, right? The 13th verse in chapter 2. That a sober person is not bewildered. And Nisarga Karuna. Nisarga Karuna means by nature very kind. So he's sober and very kind. The point here is that this nature of his being sober and very kind is foundational to his success in this particular test. See? This is a test from the demigods to see that this great king, how great is he? Because he has developed his nature, or he has molded his nature, or cultivated these qualities of being sober and very kind. They are highlighted here. So this is another take-home point. So I'm just listing out the different take-home points. Point about hangry being covered in the Bhagavatam. This is one of the way existence tortures us. Counterintuitive nature of spiritual rewards. That's another take-home point. When we give, we receive. And this third take-home point in this verse is these qualities of Dhira and Nisarga. Sober and kind. We need to work on sobriety. Of course, sober doesn't just mean that we are free from intoxicants, alcohol and drugs and so on. That's also a kind of sober. But we are also free from the drugs of selfishness, self-aggrandizement, and bad habits. So being sober and very kind is very much needed whenever we interact with any other living entity. And also when we deal with ourselves. We have to be sober and kind to ourselves. We have to be sober. Sober means do the right thing. And kind means don't be unnecessarily harsh, even to yourself. So sobriety and kindness is needed and sometimes missing in our dealings with each other. And if they are missing, then we can categorize. Yes, Angela is saying, yes, humans are humans. Yes, this human nature is eternal because the conditional nature that's just the way things are. No matter how many electronics you throw at it, it's all the same. So, sober and kind. If I am not sober and kind, I should recognize that I am not at the best grade of devotional service. Now, you may know there are 3 grades or 3 categories of devotees, right? There is the highest, there's a medium, a middle, and then there's the lowest. So highest is called Uttamadhikari, the very top level, top class devotee. And then Madhyama means intermediate class devotee, but still fairly advanced. And then Kanishta. Kanishta is the low class devotee, or the what we call the third class devotee. So devotee. So, but not the best. In fact, it's barely making that category. Just entered into the category of being a devotee. But that is the kind of devotee actually who Rupa Goswami recommends we avoid. So we don't want to be the kind of devotee who Rupa Goswami himself recommends other people to avoid, right? None of us want to be that kind of devotee who even the great acharyas say, stay away from that fellow. Of course, offering respect from a distance, but stay away from that fellow. Do we want to be in that? No. So we want to be at least at the next level. So how does he define that? In Nectar of Instruction, verse number 5, right? He says, one should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation, Diksha, and is engaged in worshiping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. So here he is giving the three categories, okay? Kanishta, Madhyam, Uttam. So the Kanishta is a person who may be very faithfully engaged in worship of the deity in the temple, but who does not know how to behave toward devotees or people in general. So that is really the defining characteristic of a Kanishta. Kanishta is the one who's called Prakrita Bhakta or Kanishta Adhikari. He's still Adhikari. Adhikari means he's qualified to be called a devotee, but he's also qualified to be in the category of one should offer humble obeisance. No, one should mentally honor only. Only mentally honor, not even like go up and honor. We don't want to be in that category, right? So, what is the distinguishing characteristic? One who does not know how to behave toward devotees people in general. That's it. Our behavior with each other classifies us as Kanishta or beyond. So, Srila Prabhupada has given us purport after purport, letter after letter, and so much advice, and his own practical personal example is very divine on how to behave with each other, a platform of love and trust. So that is the quality of Ranti Dev that is being highlighted here. Nisarga Karuna, naturally very kind and sober. Can you imagine if every single devotee in our association, in our Sangha, in our town, in our whole movement globally, was naturally very kind and sober, where we would be as a movement? How do we change that? Of course, the only person we can change is ourselves, right? So we can take some inspiration from Ranti Dev and try to become better at being Nisarga, Karuna, and Dhira. So Kanishta is one who does not know how to behave with other devotees. Of course, we come with our own conditioning, we come with our own baggage, we come with the way we've been treated in our lives, we think it's normal. We come maybe from traumatic backgrounds. All of us have had some level of trauma, perhaps. We might have not had it, or we may have seen it. Or we may carry something from our past lives. We are the product of our choices that we make, not just in this life, but many, many lives in the past. They shape our conditioned nature. They shape our even subconscious nature. So much so that sometimes we may even take pride in our roughness. That's just the way I am. Many of my friends still like me, and some find my roughness endearing. So everyone else has to either start loving me or just deal with it. So sometimes we have that, and we defend ourselves. We defend our roughness. It's just the way I am. And because 5-10 people like me, everybody else either better like me or they can just, hit the pavement. So this is, our conditional nature runs very deep. And we do need help in getting better and better, because spiritual life, progress in spiritual life requires us to graduate from the Kanishta level to at least the Madhyama level in order for us to connect properly with Krishna, and also to avoid the severely damaging situation of finding ourselves being offensive to devotees. See? So that is the other take-home point here, that Ranti Deva had every reason to be upset and angry. He had every reason to lash out. He's a king. Kings are generally known to be haughty, and it's quite forgivable. They're kings, they have more of passion. They shout at people all the time. They shout at their servants all the time. It's fine. In fact, it's just the nature of kings. But here, because he's a great devotee of the Lord, he represented the tradition of being devotee by being naturally very kind and sober. And he gave it to Chandala. Chandala is an untouchable. See? And he gave that person respect, and he gave him his cup of water. And then, of course, the demigods, they showed themselves that, oh yeah, look, you really passed this test with flying colors. So Krishna tests us sometimes as well. It's not that Krishna doesn't know whether we'll pass or fail. And usually you take a test or an exam. Like if I administer a test to my students, I want to know, who's going to pass and fail. I don't know. But Krishna knows. So why does he test? He knows if I'm going to pass or fail. Why does he administer a test? He administers a test to show us our grade and also to show the world. That look, this Rantidev is an outstanding devotee. Just look how he passed this test. It's like nothing for him. And then they went ahead and they offered, because they're right there in front of him. They could have given him any benediction. He could have asked for any benediction, but what did he do? He did not ask them any material benedictions at all. It says over here, right, that he had no ambition to enjoy material benefits from the demigods. Right? It says nihsanga. Nisango vigata spriha. Vigata spriha. That means completely free from desires for material possessions. So this is another quality that Rantidev manifests and shines forth. It's another quality of great devotees. And is another quality that we also need to cultivate, that purest devotees, anya bilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavrtam. So you come back to Rupa Goswami, this time in Nectar of Devotion, where he defines the uttama bhakti, the highest level of devotional service, which is to not be distracted or not have any, even a tinge of desire for selfish enjoyment. They have this cooking spray called Pam. You spray it on your pan before you can saute something, and on that spray bottle it says fat-free. It's a fat-free kind of cooking oil. And if you look at one can, the number of servings is like, I don't know how many hundred servings. That means only a very tiny, like half a second spritz, that counts as a serving. If you just go like spray it, it's a different serving size. You're supposed to do like half a second spritz. Then it's fat-free. But if you look closely, it's actually made of fat. Like there's fat in it. So why do you say fat-free? Well, if you do that one small spritz, the amount of fat is so insignificant, it is almost zero. See? So, but it is not zero fat. And so another company comes along and says, no, ours is zero fat. So anyway, the point is there's a difference between having a little bit and having zero, being close to zero and actually being zero fat, right? So why am I giving this example? Here, Rupa Goswami says, Anya bilashita shunyam. Shunya is a numeric concept of zero. They say the Indians gave us the zero, right? Shunyam actually means zero. Anya abhilasha. Abhilasha means other aspirations, other desires for anything. Abhilasha means a desire or even aspiration for material profit or gain. So when it becomes not close to zero, but actually zero, then that is the highest level of bhakti. Now, it's not impossible to reach this. Bahavo jnana tapasa, Krishna says, many have made this because they've really invested their energy into getting better and cleansing their heart and so on. But it is quite a lofty goal. So how do we achieve this? Those of us who are aspiring. I know many of the devotees in our Sangha here today have achieved this. I am pretty sure, I can tell by their attitude and behavior, they've actually achieved this. And I've seen quite a few devotees who are genuinely anyabhilashita shunyam. They show all the symptoms of that. But how can I, who is not there yet, how can I achieve it? So the program is quite simple. Srila Prabhupada has outlined the program of how we can satisfy the deep hunger in our heart. The hunger in our heart that we try to fill in with, material goals or material collection of different things. The hole in the heart is shaped like Krishna. but we fill it with things that have a different shape, that are not Krishna. And so how do we go about filling that gap that's really causing us that deep thirst and hunger? So that gap is filled by regularly eating spiritually nourishing katha, kirtan, and japa. That's what Srila Prabhupada has made the program, right? It's the morning program and the evening program. And what happens? These three things: katha, kirtan, and japa. But we have to listen with rapt attention, as explained at the beginning of Bhagavatam. Listen to rapt attention, hear the katha, read it on our own also. Engage in kirtan when we are offering kirtan during the arati, when you're sitting down in kirtan, when you're going to Bhakti Center on Thursdays and absorbing the kirtan. Doesn't matter. When we are in the kirtan, let us learn to absorb it deep into our heart. And of course, japa. We want to do the Hare Krishna Mahamantra japa every day, ideally in the morning, as many rounds as possible, in a very deep, focused, and like absorbing manner. There are techniques to do that, by the way. There's japa retreats that have taken place, and you can hear them, download some of the lectures from japa retreats, and so on. So many things on how to improve our japa. So if we really work on improving our japa, kirtan, and katha, then what happens is that the hunger in our heart is satisfied. It doesn't mean that, okay, I do it once and then it's satisfied forever. No, it means that we have breakfast, a nice breakfast in the morning of nourishing katha, kirtan, and japa, and then we keep it going with a break in between if you have time to squeezing a lecture here and there, or read something, even if it's a few minutes, to keep the momentum of the spiritual nourishment going. And then in the evening again, engage in katha, kirtan, and japa. So this was Srila Prabhupada's program. Of course, the devotees were in the missionary spirit. They're engaging in this all day. But in the morning, he would have morning program, and then during the day, they'd go out and do the various services, either maintaining the temple, or going out and distributing books, Harinam, and so many other things. And then in the evening again, they would come back for the evening arati, and they would do katha some more. So, katha, kirtan, and japa. If we chew it properly, we absorb it properly, a good quality and a good amount, both are important. The quality of that japa and the amount are important. And someone may say, it's if I just do very high quality japa, but I just do 10 mantras, it's so much better than doing so many rounds but lower quality japa. That may be, but it's like arguing that you have the most delicious hand-picked basmati rice from the foothills of the Himalayas, cooked in spring water from France, and then topped with the best ghee from New Zealand, and then there's a Tulsi Devi on top. It's offered nicely, and then the bowl is put in front of you, and then you say, okay, yes, this is the best rice in the world, but you can only have 3 grains. You'll not be happy, not even make it to the back of your throat. So there's something to be said for the quality as well as the quantity. You need a minimum amount to satisfy the soul. So regularly doing an intake of this nourishing katha, kirtan, and japa in the morning will save us from us trying to, hit the so-called vending machines of the material world, where we try to find happiness in other things. It's very unhealthy. You can't have a Kit Kat for breakfast. That's very unhealthy. But I'm so hungry, I missed my breakfast, and that's all there is in the vending machine. It's really bad for you, right? But because nature of the soul is to be anandamaya bhyasa, it's hungry for ananda. So the ananda has to be coming from Krishna, who is himself Ananda Bihari. He's the one who enjoys in the spiritual ananda. So if we take our ananda from Krishna, then we'll be satisfied. So don't hit the vending machines of the material world, because it may look very nice and shiny, very attractive packaging, nice advertising all over the billboards, but it does not satisfy. It actually damages us, and it leaves us hankering for more. So that is what we want. So let us fill our bodies with true spiritual nourishment. Let us fill that Krishna-shaped hole in the heart with Krishna. Nothing else is going to fit. And that will help us tremendously in reaching his Anyabhilashi. The Anyabhilashi just means that I don't care for the vending machine anymore. That's all it means. And that is the highest level of bhakti. So thank you all very much for giving me the time and the opportunity. And we can have some more discussion if you like. I see the question from Athena. Hare Krishna. All right. So, okay. Thank you, Yashodhara Prabhu, for sharing the Parsipani temple update. Maybe, Prabhu, you can also share that latest YouTube video because that's not on our website yet. That latest one.
Okay. I'll do that while you read Athena's
question.
question and answer it.
So Athena says, Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha. If devotees are to avoid or not associate with Kanishta devotees, then how would Kanishta devotees advance in Krishna consciousness? And how would they advance to the next level of Madhyama? Where is the mercy? Yes. So it's a very good question. And we should very intelligently discriminate. And I'll show Srila Prabhupada says it right over here. Nectar of instruction. I'll share my screen again. So Srila Prabhupada says it. In order to intelligently apply the sixfold loving reciprocations mentioned in the previous verse, one must select proper persons with careful discrimination. Usually the word discrimination is used in a negative context. Oh, you discriminate against me. You're just avoiding me because I'm Kanishta Adhikari. Where am I going to get my association? So, those who are very advanced devotees, those who are very strong Madhyama Adhikaris, very strong, and those who are Uttama Adhikaris, they give their association to Kanishta Adhikaris. We need to apply our own discrimination of our understanding of our own strength on who we open up ourselves to. Because association means I am taking a conscious decision, conscious or unconscious, to be influenced by this person. I may try to influence the person, but if a person has a very strong energy of some sort, we can be influenced by them. Our association influences us. So when we choose to open up our hearts to allow the influence to flow in, that choice has to be done very intelligently. What about those Kanishtas who are trying to advance? Well, there's plenty of very senior and very strong devotees who give their association to everybody, including Kanishtas. And perhaps one day also, and if you probably know where you are at, but that you can get guidance from your other seniors that you turn to on who to associate and who not, if it's not clear. But sometimes very clear that my association with this person is not going to help me because that person really does not know how to deal with other devotees. And it's making my life very difficult. I can't engage in this sixfold loving reciprocations. So we need to know where we are, and we need to be careful on who we open up our hearts to for association. Because sometimes there's this idea that now they're in Krishna consciousness, everybody's spirit soul, so just open your heart to everybody, embrace everybody, bring them close into your heart and your life. Everything in my life is open to them, and they can tell me, I'll keep my ears open to them, and I will become very close with them. That is not what Rupa Goswami teaches. Because Rupa Goswami recognized the delicate nature of various levels of material conditioning and how we can end up regressing. And we want to be progressive devotees. We don't want to regress. And sometimes certain associations, certain vibes can actually cause regress. So if your concern is how they will advance, they'll certainly advance because there's plenty of association available to them. The mercy is there. It's kind of like saying that, okay, I'm barely treading water and I'm swimming, and there's someone there who's struggling and he's shouting for help. But I can also barely keep my own head above the water, right? Now, if I'm worried about where's the mercy for that other person, but you see, there's so many other strong devotees. They're just helping everybody, and that they also help them. So we don't need to worry too much about them. Prabhupada says, we have to focus on our spiritual growth first. Now, if you find yourself being super strong and being able to help without being affected, like real lifeguard strength, then you can certainly go and help them. But this message is meant for us to be careful in assessing our association. That's the main point. I hope that helps, Athena.
Amazing explanation as always. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for a great question. I see Andrea has her hand raised. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Madana, Gopal, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I really appreciated in the beginning where you gave that explanation about Srila Prabhupada always telling devotees that we need to take care of our health first, because I've been struggling with the classes that we've had before talking about these verses where it didn't seem like anybody was giving that kind of information. And it felt to me very much like, I don't know if you're familiar with, there's a book called The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I read it when I was young, it actually, instead of being very inspiring, which is how it is for other people, I felt very upset. I felt very upset for the tree, that the tree kept giving and giving to this kid until finally it was dead and it couldn't give anymore. And the kid never seemed to be very grateful for it. So I know that it's not exactly what is being taught in the verses, but I just felt like I really needed to hear you say that about Srila Prabhupada, because sometimes if we aren't at the right level, we can be that giving tree, and then we give so much, and then we can't be there for anybody. We can't give any fruit to anybody. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Haribol.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good point. I'll just read a good point from Prabhupada's letter. He wrote a letter in 1975. He says, it is important to keep the body fit and healthy so that we will not meet the obstacle of ill health while serving Krishna. Ill health may hinder one's service, so we want to avoid it as much as possible. And so he's written many, many letters to devotees. Another letter says, this body belongs to Krishna, and therefore we must always keep it in healthy condition to the best of our ability. So that's another one.
And besides Prabhupada's letters, are there any scriptural references to back up this point of taking good care of oneself?
That's a good question.
There's the verse in first canto of Bhagavatam, I don't remember the reference, which talks about one should take care of one's health, talking about maintenance, and then carry on Krishna consciousness. I'll look for it if there's another question or comment that comes up.
Yeah, there is that verse where one should only seek a life of self-preservation. So self-preservation means good health. If you look up the term self-preservation in Bhagavatam, you'll find that verse. Okay. Anything else? Any other discussion points?
Actually, Madan Gopal Prabhu, since there aren't any other questions right now, I was quite amazed, just to see the latest video. And the reason I'm bringing it up, because this temple is so close to the new temple in Parsippany, so close to Manhattan, and a lot of the Bhakti Centers crowd also comes from New Jersey. So something that devotees will be inspired to check out. I put the video links on there on the Zoom chat, but you can look up iskonparsippany.org to check out the progress. And I think in some months it'll be ready for people to come and visit and take inspiration from. It's going to be a Vedic verse. It's really stunning what's happening there. Like every week it seems something new is happening. Now there's roofs and walls and everything coming up. Anything else you might want to add so devotees are inspired?
Yeah, if you're inspired, maybe when the weather is better, say in April or something, you can organize a field trip where the Bhakti Center devotees can come. And by that time, of course, the walls will be up. Maybe we can do a kirtan near there. There's a park right next to it. We can do a kirtan. We can have a picnic program or something. We can have an outing. It's a nice way to kind of get together. Something to think about. Maybe April, May, depending on what works. And even if it's Athena is up for it, seems she's very happy about that idea. because we come to the Bhakti Center all the time, like with our groups, as a field trip. So there's no reason why you can't have a field trip in this direction either.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So that's something that we can work out if anybody's interested. But you don't have to have that. You can just come and check it out anytime. And this video that I shot, I think the one that you shared, I just shot it a couple days ago. Today's Wednesday. I shot it on Monday. So it's like the latest, as new as it can get. So they're putting the bricks one by one, and it's really amazing to see because I know that 100 years, 200 years from now, people will be sitting next to that wall, against that wall, and chanting deeply, and these will be our great grandchildren, and it's quite far out to think like that because these are like solid concrete and steel buildings that are going to last for a long time. So it's
and quite frankly, it's not often in one's lifetime that you can actually participate and see a new temple being built for Krishna. So, a lot of the temples are either converted buildings or they've been around for a while. So it's really inspiring to see that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Anand Bihari put the verse, it's 1.2.10.
Okay, thank you, bro. Okay. So to double check, Shastra is telling us to take care of ourselves, life of self-preservation. Shri Prabhupada is saying to take care of our health first, but here's an example is Maharaj giving his share of water when he's on the verge of death is not for us to follow. Yes, so that's why I was saying, whenever we see these, we see very extreme examples of renunciation, and there's always a take-home point, So take-home point is the counterintuitive nature of spiritual reward. How by giving up my food and water to someone, my own thirst and hunger vanishes. And then there's another story, which is the opposite. Maybe I'll tell that story real quick, which is the opposite, where there's Loknath Goswami, who was a disciple, who was the guru of Narottam Das Thakur, and he was, not the guru. Yeah, that's right. He was the guru of Narottam Das Thakur, and then Narottam Das Thakur once was chanting very deeply, and he was fully absorbed in the spiritual world, and then he was disturbed by a farmer. A farmer had come and said, Maharaj, can you give me some water? And there's a well nearby, there's a bucket. And so Narottam Das Thakur came out of his deep meditation and went to the well to fetch water from the well and took it out and gave it to the farmer, who drank it and went on his way. And then in the meantime, his guru, Loknath Goswami, returned to external consciousness, and he said, Narottam, I don't think you're ready for this advanced Krishna consciousness. You better just give up and go home. I don't want a disciple who's not serious like you. You have so many desires. You want to be kind to everybody. You want to return to your kingdom. Just go back to your kingdom, live in your palace, and be charitable to your people. Give them all water and bread and whatever they want. You can't do bhajan. Can you imagine? He said this. And then Narottam asks, and this is a great Narottam Das Thakur who wrote all this bhajan. Yes, why? And his Guru Maharaj said, because you have no idea of the greatness of Krishna's holy name. Krishna's name is Krishna himself. You are absorbed in the spiritual world. Radha Krishna are right there. When a Vaishnava chants the name of Radha and Krishna, he understands he's serving Krishna directly in the kunjas of Raja. You think this is any less than being in the spiritual world? Do you think this serving Radha Krishna in the kunja is lower than quenching the thirst of a common farmer? They're farmers. They know where the water is. They'll figure it out. It's not like he was dying of thirst. They're farmers just passing by. He just has to look around. You'll find a well. You don't have to disturb yourself. So that is the point, is that, yes, the charitable aspect of it is to soften our hearts, but it is not to be done to the expense of our Krishna conscious growth. And also, we have to see the situation. In Rantidev's situation, right? The Chandal was actually just dying of thirst, and he really didn't have a place at all. But in this case, with Narottam Das Thakur, you could have let it go, and it wouldn't have had any consequence. They're farmers, they'll figure it out. So we should be careful also where we place our energies in terms of charitable work, and of course, the whole point here about self-preservation. we should only do a level of austerity that we can handle. No need to do extreme austerity. Otherwise, in Bhagavatam, there's all kinds of crazy austerities. Ajagara vritti. You know Ajagara vritti, where someone just lies on the ground like a python, doesn't move his arms and legs. That's extreme renunciation. And then he only eats whatever someone throws into his mouth. He won't even bother to pick it up with his own hand. If somebody comes and throws some food in my mouth, I'll eat. Otherwise, I'm going to starve. And that's there too. You see, so we can't do that. Srila Prabhupada has given us a nice outline of what level of austerity to do. You fast on Ekadashis, and that's basically it. You fast on Ekadashis and Janmashtami and so on. So, all right.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Gopal Prabhu. Thank you, Athena, and everyone for contributing to this class. Stay healthy, stay balanced, stay real. Okay. Thank you very much. Wonderful class. Very clear, Shastra-based. We'll see you again soon.
And tomorrow is
Madam Gopal
Ganasham Prabhu. Tomorrow is Ganasham Prabhu, and day after is Shamananda Prabhu from Chowpatty. So stay tuned and join every day. Every day there's some wonderful speakers.
Yeah,
Thank
what
you,
a
Madan
lineup.
Gopal Prabhu.
Thank you for the opportunity. Srila
Hare
Prabhupada
Krishna.
ki jai. Samveta
Hare Madan Gopal
ki
Prabhu
jai.
Jai.